Welcome to the Sellernomics podcast, where we share valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. And now, here are your hosts, Rob Stanley and Lisa Kinski.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of Sellernomics. My name is Lisa Kinski, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rob Stanley. And today we have with us Paul Jarett from Bulu Group, B-U-L-U, kind of like Hulu, but with a B for the audio listeners. And we are going to be talking about how Amazon sellers can effectively manage their 3PLs. So let's go ahead and bring him on board. Paul, how are you?
I'm amped up after the music and the intro. Let's have a little fun. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm looking around for who's coming out.
We are definitely going to have some fun. Well, thank you, Paul, so much for being here. So we want to jump straight into things. And I think the best first question to start out with are, what are the pros versus cons of having a 3PL manager inventory versus Amazon or like fulfilling out of your garage, doing it yourself? Like, kind of walk us through the pros and cons of each column.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Rob, for having me on. And anybody that's going to attempt to listen to me babble on, appreciate you. So what there's so many technical things that you can get into. And I feel like there isn't a week that goes by that somebody isn't trying to impress me with some Amazon nuanced knowledge, right? And that's great, right? And you should learn those things. But what I would say is overall, and we've been doing this over 12 years, I've sold plenty of stuff myself on Amazon, had stuff manufactured, did the jungle scout, all that stuff, right? What I would say is, it's almost what I see is a mind shift, right? And what I would call that is the people that have that growth mentality, Amazon typically becomes a little more difficult for them because it's almost like you're pumping the brakes to like go gut check, to go like check things, right? And what I see is, and we started out using a 3PL our first 2 or 3 years until we crushed them with volume. After the second one, we thought we better figure this out, right? But what I see is, if you are willing to pass on that headache and you find the right partner, that's the key, right? What it allows people to do is all that extra time of, reading through all the email alerts, right? Navigating through the chaos that is different seller or merchant or the different elements of Amazon. What we see is people that understand, yes, I might be paying a little bit more. A lot of them actually will be saving by the time shipping rates get done or whatever it is, packing specific ways. But what we see is it's almost like a mind shift of, okay, I'm going to focus on Amazon. I'm going to focus on growth, and I'm going to leave that stuff to partners or a 3PL or going through Amazon. And that allows them to focus and frankly, like, really fine tune the niche, right? Or fine tune, maybe they have time now to think through a bundle or a gift or something specific to Amazon. Maybe it's Prime, maybe it's subscription. So what I would say is you can get into all sorts of detail about it. At the end of the day, there is a price to your time, right? And is it more valuable that you are managing Amazon and learning the nuance of that? And that might be the case, right? But if you know that you're there and all you want to do is kind of cut loose and focus on growth, focus on sales, we've seen that if you hire that out or you use third parties that support you and kind of add gasoline to the fire, if you will, right? That's what's important. And that's also that mindset if you don't have that excited to be in Amazon and kind of tinkering and getting every little nuance and learning the ins and outs of it, it becomes just like almost like a spirit killer, right? For the people that want to grow. So what I would say is, sure, do it, learn it a little bit, whatever. But if you're hardcore focused on that growth mindset, look for a partner that can support you. So you're not, looking around for some money that you could have saved or, like on the show, right? Like there's somebody that owes you money. Amazon owes you money, go get it. Hire out the pros for those parts. So I think that's what that would be my really big, long answer after 12 years of working with some of the biggest brands in the world, all the way down to us just manufacturing and launching stuff ourselves, is that, focus on the growth, get that part down, let people handle the back end part. But not everybody's wired like that.
Yeah, I agree. That's one thing I used to recommend when I would do different webinars and things that people would suggest. I'm like, let some of these services do things for you, focus on running your business and making money. One thing you brought out some great information, but one thing I'd like to kind of just back up slightly on is when businesses are looking at these 3PLs, like what are some of the key things that they should be looking for when they're trying to find the right 3PL partner?
Oh man, I have all this stuff. Maybe after 12 years, I'm just like really opinionated on all of it, right? And I'm kind of
give us the top ones.
Here's what I would say. I almost view it. I'm really curious what you guys think about this. I almost view it as similar to finding a lawyer, right? If you're just getting started, maybe there's a rocket lawyer, right, that you can use, or maybe there's content and you're just like, I'm just going to do it myself, right? There's advantages and disadvantages to that. Obviously, one of them is you're just going to save money if you're using your own time to do it, right? So there's kind of that rocket lawyer level. Then, if you progress and let's say you want to make an estate plan or whatever, right? You should probably go identify 7, whittle it down to 3, and then choose the one that makes the most sense, right? And then there's those moments where, things are chaos, it's running wild, something legal comes in the mail about something that happened in some other country, yada, 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 very like nuanced saying, well, you better go find the right lawyer for the right job and be ready to pay what it takes, because if that thing is solved, you can continue your growth, right? So I almost feel like, when I'm talking to clients, I'm not here to convince anybody to use 3PLs, because mentally, if you're not there, like, don't do it, because, it's always weird to hand that over. But, the same way there's rocket lawyer, maybe that's a ship bob type thing, or a shipmonk or whoever, right? And then there's the next levels to those things. But at the end of the day, it does feel like if you are watching over it and you're aware and you find the right partners, what you pay is what you're going to get back. So I'm really encouraging a lot of people to look at logistics through the same lens you're going to look at finance and legal, right? Like, do you mess around with those things? Nope. Usually probably not, right? There's levels to it. And I think that's important. And the right partner, the right fit for a logistics client shouldn't just have low shipping rates. They should have connections. They should have distribution plans ready down for you, right? They should have things ready to go. Anybody can kind of push on shipping rates. And the idea is you use a 3PL, the money that you save with your shipping rates is what you pay them to get it done. It doesn't always work out that way. So I think it's all about having a partner that will support you. And we're very focused on, I don't want this to be a pitch for us, but like, for example, we are looking for brands that scale because we have the system set up to help them keep going, right? We are not the company. We're not the fulfillment company, whatever. We don't even bring up shipping rates. If you enter the conversation about shipping rates, you're probably going to get pushed away a little bit. And that isn't because we don't have phenomenal shipping rates. It's a mindset, right? If you come to us looking to save a penny and you're just pushing, well, guess what that relationship is going to be like? Because a fulfillment company is probably closer to a marriage, right? They're watching your baby in their warehouse, right? They should kind of treat it like that. But if you're pushing, and the beginning conversation is price cutting, like, guess where that leads? Whereas if the beginning conversation is, hey, help me with this thing, or we're growing, we don't know what to do, or do you whatever, the pricing will come with us when it makes sense. But we're really focused on helping people continue to scale without, hitting that proverbial like bump in the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you brought up the point on the lawyers. Like, for instance, I have 3 different lawyers that specialize in 3 different things, right? I'm not just hiring one general lawyer to do everything for me. But another thing I want to bring up, when it comes to 3PL providers, everybody needs to still be profitable. I mean, you said don't focus necessarily on the rates and everything, but you need to at least understand them. Is there any times when they should be able to negotiate either some terms, or what things are negotiable with a 3PL?
Yeah, I feel like that's a bit of our dirty secret as an industry, right? Also, like, I don't know if I should say hate. I dislike 3PLs myself. Argue like we've sold the software, we built a lot of things, but I would say that like, really focusing in on that relationship, and the rates thing that will come, all that stuff will come. But most companies, like the dirty little secret is like, they overwhelm you, or they really focus your eyes on the shipping rates and the storage fees. And what I would say, like, if you can kind of read a rate sheet, or you can kind of like talk the talk and you go, okay, well, I know those 5 things that they're talking about, but I don't really understand those other things. That's where they're going to get you, right? Like the whole 3PL, I feels like, and like, come at me, other 3PLs, if you disagree, right? But it feels like, hey, look at our shipping rates. Hey, look at our storage rates. Oh, by the way, there's like a special fee for that. There's a special fee for that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Don't worry, just sign, right? So anybody that has like a long-term contract, like I'd really be leery of. Anybody that's really trying to get you to focus on certain elements of your fulfillment, like I would really push. And here's the other thing. We used to be intimidated by logistics companies, fulfillment companies, supply chain. I think it's the most, next to legal, probably the most intimidating thing that you need to learn. But also, like when you work with a lawyer or finance, do you learn every single legal term, financial term? Like you don't. So why is it when we get to supply chain and logistics that what we see is a lot of people are a little sheepish or a little intimidated? If somebody is working with you and they're using, just even simple words like receiving or same day or like whatever, like I encourage everybody, like stop them. You are not the professional logistics. They are. It is their job to ensure that they feel comfortable, that you feel comfortable with them. So stop and make sure that you know exactly what they're talking about. And I also push people like, long-term contract, that's kind of a big flag for me. There's my thumbs up. Them really focusing you on certain elements of the rate card and maybe not walking you through everything else, that's kind of a big one too. And then what I would also say is there are rates that they charge that you should be able to see. There is a proposal and then there's an estimate. And what I would want to know, if I were anybody, I would want to know darn near exactly what it's going to cost for each package that I ship and what the labor is with it. And if you stop at the rate card or you stop at their website calculator or whatever, that's bad news. You should take it further and ensure that okay, these shipments that go here are going to cost this. Here's the labor, because that's where people don't pay attention. And I've seen this happen a million times before. Let's say they have 3 items and they come shrink wrapped into one item, right? So it's 3 things shrink wrapped together. Well, in most people's systems, the person picking it zaps 3 times. So guess what? You just got like 1, 2, 3 charges, when in reality, that should be set up where they zap at once and it's just like 1 item with those barcodes. So those are things where I see people kind of like, lose their pants per se, right? Like, and the little fees that 3PLs, they're not, most of them aren't going to pick up the phone and call you about it, because this is truly still like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Don't tinker with things, because people, and rightfully so, that are working in a warehouse on the floor, like I tell kind of like my white collar people, right? I think white collar, blue collar is okay, especially if you can have a foot in each world. I say like, you need to understand, you're thinking about growth, Mr. White collar person, back office, sitting at a desk. Most of the people that are doing the last part of touching your product, they just don't want to get fired. So how does it benefit them to go, hey, I have an idea, or I know you want to do this, let me fix the system, the software, the WMS. Like that doesn't come up naturally, right? It's easier to charge the client a fee to let the account manager to deal with it versus like try to fix it on the floor. And that is the main reason why we put everybody in our same 100,000 plus square foot warehouse. And if there's an issue, people just walk right on back and we sort it out on the spot. I answered your question somewhere in there, I think.
No,
yes,
you did.
You did for sure, but definitely a lot to unpack in that. So we're going to take a quick break here from our sponsor, but we will be back in just a second.
Hey Amazon sellers, your Amazon profit margins are shrinking? Let Getida uncover hidden FBA refunds so you can maximize and boost your Amazon profits today. We specialize in turning lost FBA refunds into profit. Sellernomics listeners can get a $400 offer by visiting Getida.com/Sellernomics. And remember, with Getida, your hard-earned money and profit stays in your pocket.
All right, y'all, be sure to head over to Getida.com/Sellernomics for the first $400 in FBA reimbursements free. We are back with Paul Jarrett with Bulu.
He was amped. That guy was amped. I'm ready.
So,
that's our CGO Yoni.
That's our co-founder and CGO Yoni Mazur. If anybody has ever met him in real life, that doesn't, I mean, you know, that doesn't even remotely match his actual energy in person.
No, it was great. It was great. It's like, it's real. I mean, it feels like we're a similar company where it's like, just say the thing, be honest, be real. So no, I actually really like that. That's cool.
Good. Thank you. Love real-time feedback. These are new ads for us. So.
We just doubled the ad volume there.
Nice.
So let's kind of get back to the topic at hand, right? Which is effectively managing 3PLs. And albeit you've said that you're not necessarily a big fan of them, but for some of these sellers that are leveraging a 3PL that have that growth mindset, how can the everyday brand ship like the big brands, like the major retail brands? Yeah,
well, I'm going to give a secret out here that I'm not going to make friends over. And again, please provide. I'm one of those people where, like, you start in logistics. It's terrifying. You learn it. You think you know it. Then you open another door, and you open another door, and I think when people stop opening the doors, it's really dangerous that, like, they know everything. And we are just the company that's like, there's always something to learn. There's always, whatever. So I'm curious how this will settle. But what we've seen over 12 plus years is really, at the end of the day, if you're pushing on all angles to get the best price possible, the two big levers that a lot of people ignore, or it's hard to hit or whatever, is straight up how are ways to truly get your shipping down? Number one, sales reps commission, right? And I don't care if you're using a software. Usually there's a sales rep in there somewhere, right? So, what do? We bring in UPS, FedEx, everybody. They physically have to come in. We physically talk. We negotiate on our client's behalf. We will twist their arm behind their back. We'll do what it takes, right? So that's like the first thing, where even if you're using a software, like, try getting through to the CEO before you just kind of like contact them, the main kind of website, right? Because that'll get assigned and there's commissions in there, right? The second thing is the ability to predict how many vehicles you're going to need, right? And that's why we're big fans of like subscription or auto renew or pushing those in there, because if you can start to work with whoever you're working with, and they might be able to give you this information, but you're going to need 9 FedEx trucks in 2 months. That's the way your numbers are looking, or 2 FedEx trucks. It doesn't matter. But when you can start predict that, and then those carriers and those companies can start to plan ahead, that's when we always see the dial that's actually turned, right? I think everybody thinks a little bit too simply of like, oh, we get more volume, we'll get better aids. Well, yeah, but if you're not like really paying close attention to that and really understanding what that means, you might just be making more margin for your fulfillment partner, right? So you really have to keep the pulse on that. You really want a partner that you could trust. But that sales reps commission, salespeople. And then also predicting how many kind of vehicles you're going to need and when, and subscription can really help with that, or auto renew. Those are the two biggest levers. And I would just encourage everybody, like, if you're going to use a product, good, or service, start at the top and work your way down instead of just going directly to the site, because that's where everybody starts to get a piece of the pie.
Very nice. Very nice. So what about some of the challenges that Amazon sellers face with 3PL management? Like, or better yet, let me ask this. what are things they don't know? Like we talked about a lot of things they need to know, but what are things they just don't know? Like sellers don't know when they start dealing. You mentioned one of them with some of the fees, right? Sometimes there's fees that are hidden there. Is there anything else when it comes to logistics or managing the inventory or, shipping things out to Amazon to, store some in both locations? What are things that you've seen?
This is something that we've seen quite a bit, and maybe it's like more industry specific. We tend to do a lot of like vitamins, supplements, healthy snacks, but whoever kind of like owns the account, sometimes we see people add products. So let's say you have a portfolio of products, right? And it might be coconut drills all the way to like sexual health products, right? Well, we've seen some people kind of not really pay attention to what Amazon is and isn't okay with, right? And they get kind of dinged and they get blacklisted, and they weren't even planning on like selling that product actually on Amazon. They were going through the motions. So I think like being very aware of like how Amazon is going to view your company and your products and what you're actually selling. Because you all know as well as I do, you get something off in the setup or even down the road, and trying to get through to correct it. I mean, we probably all have like nightmare stories with that, right? So that's one, and I'm thinking like a lot of the sexual health stuff or whatever. Well, try not to giggle when I talk about it, right? And then probably like just like really basic stuff of like they're still doing like copy paste on like the description. They don't have good photos. They're not attempting to do video. And you go through, people when they're filling out or they're working to get their account ready with Amazon, it almost always feels like they view that as like the finish line. And you're like, oh, no. You just got your racing bib, right? Now you need to start to use the tools. Like, let's get good photography. Okay, we're not selling that product. We don't even need to make a profile or anything with that, because that one might, Amazon might view that in a different bucket than the way that you view it, right? I'm trying to think of like a specific supplement other than horny goat weed, but CBD is like in there too. So that's what we see a lot of, is people they have a lot of products, they just get in the motions or they subcontract out, and then they put something up that is a big no-no, right? And I don't want to blow anybody's cover here. And then, just following the basics, but like, man, it just feels like a lot of people are such in a rush to just get a profile up and running, and then it performs poorly. And you're like, well, look at your photo. Like, where's the video? Where's the copy? Oh, why is it associated with these products here? So that's the stuff that we see really are a detriment over time. As far as shipping goes, I mean, it's so much of like follow the Amazon rules. What I would say is like, be ready to leverage Amazon and help you like almost like test some things out, because what might not, again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here with your audience, but what might work on Amazon doesn't work other locations, right? So like your gift bundle might, just because it does well or doesn't do well on Amazon, does not mean it couldn't just crush it in the store shelves or your own website or eBay or TikTok or whatever, right? So almost maybe what I'm trying to say is I see a lot of people viewing Amazon as the end all be all. But if you have a little bit in the back of your mind of what does the expansion of this brand look like? What does it look 5 years from now, 3 years from now? I think a lot of people would do things differently when it comes to Amazon.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think that you're right. And I remember for a long time, even before I started at Getida, the conversation I was having on podcasts was like, start with the end in mind. Like, yes, Amazon is an incredible opportunity for a lot of brands, and you can really get a solid start. But do you plan on selling the brand? Okay, what do you need to get there? Do you plan on going on other marketplaces or to brick and mortar? What are the steps that you need to take to get there successfully? And that's kind of a perfect segue into our next question, which is just your thoughts and opinions on the future for e-com and brick and mortar. Because obviously, I mean, 2020 boosted e-commerce. What did they say? The e-commerce industry by 10 years and 12 months because we were all stuck at home, and that trajectory has kind of slowed a little bit, but we still have such an incredible dependence on it. But I feel like real life shopping, brick and mortar shopping is coming back. So what do you kind of expect to see for the future of each industry?
I get asked the question a lot, and whatever I'm saying has got me on some panels and more stuff. So, maybe this is interesting or whatever, maybe it's total BS, but I've never viewed you know, but I launched our first e-commerce site. I went early 2000s, really early. I mean, we were like, people are punching in their credit card and it went into an Excel document. We're like, isn't that cool? It sounds so dangerous now, but you know, it's back then, nobody knew any better. It's like, I'm like telling people, I'm like, it's okay. We were all doing it back in like 02 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead. Can you rephrase the question another way? I think that will help me do a better job of answering it. Is that all right? Am I allowed to ask that?
I mean, so, you know, as we're looking forward, maybe 5 years into the future, brands that are managing their business exclusively for Amazon right now, do you think that they should continue that structure and that strategy of saying, hey, we're all in on Amazon, we're going to stay all in on Amazon? Or do you think that there's going to be enough of expansion in brick and mortar in the next 3, 5, 7 years that they need to include that into their fulfillment strategy? Because there's obviously going to be different packaging, different schedules, different, you know, it's all different, right? So do you think there's going to be enough growth in that area versus e-com that they need to learn the diversification?
Thank you for that. It was the kind of the Amazon part that was throwing me off a little bit. I would say absolutely. You need to start to put your strategy together now if you haven't already. And I would say look no further than the Facebook and the Apple policy changes. And if you saw what we saw here and what some of those simple little policy changes by Apple and Facebook actually impacted sales, I think, you know, you would be, a lot of people would be terrified. I mean, we actually saw it put a few businesses out of operation because there was such a heavy, like, I'm focused on subscription and nothing else on my website. And then blink, like the advertising changed and it just went away. Like literally, you know, 5,000 sales in a month just turned into like 1,200 like that. And then never quite recuperated. So it's the, like, how do you build a moat around your business, or do you just build it around Amazon? And what I would say is, like, nobody knows the future, right? Amazon, I get a sense of going to like what do they call it? The user edge. I forget the conference, whatever they call it. As soon as they started being really nice to everybody at their conference, I was like, hold on here. What's going on? Like, you know, because when you're dominating an industry, you're like, yeah, whatever, everybody get in line and deal with it. But as soon as the last 2-3 years, probably 2 years, there's more booths and they're like, come talk to us, and they're reaching out. I'm like, they know something we don't know, right? They're going to try to keep people. But what I would say is focus on what you're good at. And if it is Amazon, like, continue to do that, continue to grow. There's always ways to start to prep, or just ask questions, or go to conferences, or sign up for a few newsletters. We were never in licensing product, for example, with sports teams and whatever. As just a little fun for about 2 years, I was poking around licensing. And I tell you what, I went to like my 3rd conference and I was like, oh, I get it. I understand enough in this industry to make a few good decisions to get started. So what I would say is, I think what the future actually holds is, and I always use this rule of thumb, less footsteps and less thumb movement. And what that means is, like, if you're, let's just say you're on your way home, right? And you think of something that you need, right? What are you going to do? You're probably going to go, I can buy that on Amazon, or I can buy that. But if you drive by the store, you're probably going to stop and just do that. So what I would say, I think what the future of kind of in general buying looks like is, I believe that people will kind of have their profile, and I think e-commerce sites, and I think physical checkout, they're going to kind of like have a button for you that's like, buy it this way. So if they know you want a subscription on this, if they know you want this, but I think all of it boils down to, if there is an opportunity for people to get something with fewer steps and fewer clicks, right? A lot of times they'll kind of let price change a little bit. So if that is the case, right, and you're selling a product like toothpaste, how do you start to understand where your customers are and contact those retail stores? Because one thing I do know, whether you're selling on your own website or TikTok or another store, the more time that you have to plan, and especially with retail buyers, because usually by the time you're doing those things, nothing else is working, right? And you're crossing your fingers one of those things will work. Well, start now, right? Like, start now, calling up or emailing some of these retailers and just learning what EDI compliance means, because it's not that intimidating and it's not that complicated. But if you don't know what it is and you're working with a retail bricks and mortar buyer and they say, are you EDI compliant? And you don't have an answer for them immediately, they're not going to even say, no to you. They're just going to kind of like let you float off into the distance, right? And then you can start to add those up and go, I better know what EDI compliant means so I can answer that question. So I think the future is whatever is the fastest, few steps, fewer thumb. And if Amazon is part of that, so be it. But if not, there's plenty of other stores that you can work with. And I do think that there is a bit of a reemergence of physical bricks and mortar retail. It is the only way, other than marketing dollars on Amazon and doing, really committing to Amazon, retail bricks and mortar is kind of the only way that we've seen any of our brands grow significantly, like new channels. So I think it's something everybody should be doing.
Yeah. And that's actually a brilliant idea. I'm thinking about Walmart specifically. If there's something I need, I mean, the path to my home, I have to pass a Walmart. There's no other way. There's one road into my house and that's it. Mm-hmm. And if there's something I need at the Walmart and I just pop in and grab it real fast, like a supplement or I don't know what else it would be, having the self-checkout or even the cashier say, hey, do you want this on a 30, 60, 90-day subscription? Because Walmart essentially uses their stores as fulfillment centers. Amazon could do the same thing with Whole Foods. There's actually that's a brilliant idea. Yeah. Can we, if anyone's listening, we want commissions for the royalties, whatever.
It's one of those things where I'm like, if you, not to sound like an arrogant jerk, but it's like really just over time, if you saw what I saw, if you got the calls from, I can neither confirm nor deny, Walmart, I can legally say we have a friendship with Amazon. But if you saw kind of those things and you really kind of like put it all together, you go, man, Walmart and Shopify actually have a pretty good shot at taking market share away from Amazon relatively quick. I think Shopify now has a lot to figure out with all their acquisitions, but man, it feels like Amazon or Walmart is just this fire-breathing dragon waiting for the pen to open, And I'm like, and then you think about the Amazon stuff and how their attitudes kind of change. You go, something's going on here. And at the very least, I could sell my product on Walmart.com. Maybe that's a good point of entry, right? So yeah, I think it's Walmart's going to be quite a big player. I think they're going to kind of shake up the industry in the next couple of years. But ultimately, what are they all doing? They're the same way, tech companies really want to own the SMS space, right? And own the payment space. Really, the kind of CPG world, like they want to own your path home. They want to know where you're at and when you need your stuff. And when you look at it through that lens, it doesn't matter if it's Amazon, Walmart, or the names are completely irrelevant. And what matters is like the technology and what they're doing. And honestly, like I never thought I'd say this, but after 12 years, quarterly reports by these big brands, like, that are public and have to publish stuff. If you read enough of them and you read between the lines, they are telegraphing what they're doing, but they just got to word it in a way that, most people aren't going to sit down and read it 5 times, run it through ChatGPT, ask questions, right? And I get a kick out of doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. Paul, tell us more about Bulu, how y'all got started, what exactly did y'all do, and where folks can learn more and reach out if they have any questions.
All right. I will try to make this as not gross pitch as possible. How about that?
This is your time. I always say this is
your time. Pitch away.
Shameless plug. So go for it.
This is the part where I turn off the podcast, right? Or fast forward to the end. So hopefully that's not
You're going to miss good info.
Yeah, right. So my co-founder and I, who I happen to be married to, Stephanie, we started Bulu Box about 12 years ago. We were one of the very first sample boxes is what we were called, but then that turned into subscription boxes. Concept was super easy. I saw that there was 4 or 5, I don't even remember their names anymore. Birchbox, Beauty Army, and a couple popping up in this makeup subscription box. And I thought, I know that vitamins and supplements and healthy food are actually a fast follower to the makeup industry. If this is popular here, this kind of solves the problem that I have of not knowing what the ROI is on a sample packet that we're handing out for this vitamin supplement store I work for. So we launched Bulu Box, unknowingly is a subscription box, $10 a month. try vitamin supplements out, come back, earn rewards points, buy full size on the website. It went awesome. We grew to 60,000 subscribers pretty quickly, but we kind of saw the writing on the wall with the customer. When you're the sixth subscription box, and a couple of years later, you look up and go, there's 14,000 of them. It shouldn't be a shock when your CAC goes through the roof, or your customer acquisition costs. So we saw that. We kind of freaked out a little bit, but we're making a ton of money, just not at the margins we wanted to. Also, we are VC funded, venture capital funded. So we actually built what is now called rangeme.com. So we had an idea for software. So we did the CPG thing, and then we built out this software, which was basically linkedin.com for consumer packaged goods. It would help retail buyers figure out what to put on their shelves. We sold that off. It became RangeMe. So now we got our CPG software check boxes. And then we started building turnkey subscription box programs for big brands like Disney, GNC, their whole membership program. We kind of built that out and ran it for them. Crayola, Shark Week, Lululemon, the list goes on. And all I tell people is that we had a really clever way to approach these big brands and say, fill in these numbers in an Excel document, and we can tell you 3 years out how this box will perform, subscription box. And we were coming within 10% correct. Wow. Every time, which I tell people, when you ship a lot for yourself and venture capitalists want to know the metrics, you're just kind of learn it, right? And then we recently decided in October of 2023 to buy Bulu. And so now what we focus on is we say we are a 5PL services at 3PL rates. What that means is we store, pack, ship, we mark it up like 10%. That's where we make our money. We don't like the smoke and mirrors stuff, right? But then the thing that we do differently is we have 150 different sales channel integrations. So you want to sell on Amazon, you want to sell on TikTok, you want to sell in different locations. Well, our dashboard already has those ready. You just need to get approvals, copy paste. And now you're selling on TikTok. That's the thing that a lot of people are coming to us for, because it's in a dashboard where they can see everything that we're doing, right? And then the icing on the cake to that is we will package things specifically for those sales integrations, because the way that you package things for Amazon is probably not the way you want to package it for TikTok. Even the way you package it for Target probably isn't the way you want to package it for, let's say, like 24 Buc-ee's or Casey's, grocery convenience stores, right? So on top of the store, pack, and ship, we offer unlimited sales channels and unlimited packing options, and that it's working well right now. I'll say that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Paul, a quick question for you, just so everybody kind of knows, how many warehouses do you guys have? Where are you kind of located for easy use, right? Like, you know, obviously people ship a lot of stuff in through the West Coast, Long Beach, but how do you guys handle that, and what kind of locations?
Yep. So we are located right, if you threw a dart at the US, we're right in the middle. I-80 runs through us, right in Lincoln, Nebraska. So it's kind of like transportation logistics capital of the world, right? So we're located in Lincoln, Nebraska, 120,000 square feet, humidity, temp control. It has to be good enough for American Express, Disney, and GNC. That's our main location where I'm at right now. You can see it behind me. Our software that we use allows us to integrate with other partners that meet our criteria. So we do have a place in Jersey, LA, Florida. So we will basically integrate with other 3PLs. But the big catch is we have to go get eyes on it, right? I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of like Uber for fulfillment. And all I got to say is, like, I knew those people before, during, I still know them that started those companies. And I will just keep repeating the same thing that I've said. Yeah, but with Uber, sometimes you get a crummy driver. What do you do then? Right now, imagine if it's your product and there's an Uber for fulfillment, like, what happens when you get a crummy driver, right? So there's a place in the market for all sorts of companies, but ours is very similar to some of those, except for we're not going to hire an Uber driver, another 3PL, and connect to them without full transparency and our partner knowing as well. So
yeah, awesome.
That's awesome. And if folks want to learn more, they can always visit Bulu Group, BULUgroup.com. If you have any questions for Paul directly, you can email him at paul@bulugroup.com. You can also check out his website for, I assume, I know you talk about Bulu Group on there, but like you've said, you've done speaking engagements and other podcasts, and that's just his name, pauljarrett.com. So awesome. Paul, thank you so much for coming on with us today and sharing all this info. Super appreciate your time.
Thank you. And if anybody listening has made it this far, thank you. So thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Rob.
You got it.
Thank you. And thank you so much for everyone who tuned in today. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to give us a thumbs up, share your thoughts with us in the comments, subscribe to the show, and we will see you all on the next one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, Getida. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.